Welcome to Imperfect Momming. Our children are constantly looking to us for examples. The term role model doesn't quite cut it here. We are shaping their worldview with every move we make. You see, it's not in the lectures we give or moments where we are actively attempting to teach them. It's in the micro movements we make, the unconscious ways in which we navigate life. We are constantly teaching our children how to show up for themselves, their friends, their future partners, and even their future children. So what can we do to ensure we are raising thoughtful, compassionate, self-aware human beings? We have to become them ourselves. No one is perfect, but we can still all be better, and it starts with self-healing. Let's get to it.
Good morning and happy Mom Hour. A day early is better than a day late, right? And if you're listening on the Imperfect Momming podcast, welcome to the podcast and to the community. So this morning, I've already had a day. Like I could go back to bed and feel like the day was like I lived enough for today, and I've only been up since 6 a.m. It was so funny to me because I went to bed with a clear picture, super clear picture of how today was going to go, because we're leaving today to go to camp, to junior high camp, and I'm going to be a counselor. So I've been really excited about this and a little nervous because I'm working with an age group that I've never worked with. And so, a little nervous about it, but I was like, yesterday I packed, I had my plan. I was going to get all the laundry done, before I left. And I thought, oh man, I've got the perfect way to actually be finished with laundry, because you know how laundry never ends. So the way to be finished with laundry is to do all the laundry and leave. I don't think anybody likes that option, but that's what I'm doing. That's what my plan was today. And I started doing that. But every morning I wake up and the dogs immediately want to go for a walk. And so I got up and I went for a walk. And I started walking, and the dogs usually go ahead of me. We're in the country, so they go off leash. But they usually go up in front of me a ways, and they come back. Well, I got to the edge of our property and they weren't even with me. They weren't ahead of me. They were still behind me. I was like, what's going on? So I called them and they came and we walked. We did our walk, and then we got back to the house, and usually they go to the back door because they know that they're supposed to go in the house when we're done. And I was, according to them, this is the way I interpreted it, that I was taking too long. So Indy came back and checked on me, and then he came back again. And I saw them I call it our backyard. We don't technically have a backyard. We have a back area that's fenced off, but it's all concrete and no grass. But we have some chicken wire surrounding it because Audi would escape. Yes, Audi gets out. So we put the chicken wire up, and I noticed both dogs were in this area, and they don't usually go back there when we walk, after we walk. Like Indy will sit right by the door, and Audi kind of, is outside of that fence and kind of going in circles. Both of them were back there. So I opened the door and Indy goes in, and Audi starts to come, and then she turns around and goes back, and I'm like, what is she doing? And so I called her. She came into the house, and I closed the door and I went and looked, and there was a puppy like this big. If you're not watching the video, I don't know how to describe it. It was maybe 3 months old, definitely a bigger breed of dog. I'm not a dog expert by any means. But it's so obvious that it's hurt and it's terrified. And it broke my heart. And so we live, like I said, in the middle of the country, and so there's a lot of coyotes out here. So my guess is he escaped from where he was living. It's very clear to me that he had an owner that probably was taking really good care of him, because he's, real chubby. And when Indy showed up at our house, he was super skinny, like he'd been on his own for a while. And he was covered in ticks and fleas and everything. And but this dog was chubby, and besides the bite marks, looked pretty healthy. So I am not, before today, I would have said, I'm not equipped to deal with these situations. Like, there's always someone else around when this kind of stuff happens, and I'm more than happy to let other people take the lead. And it's just me and Xander. Today, my boyfriend went camping last night, and so he's gone. And Xander is asleep. And so this was like 7 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning that I found him. And so, I posted immediately on Facebook, like, what do I do? And it's Sunday morning, nobody's awake. And I texted my mom and I texted my sister, and again, nobody's awake. So I'm just like, I really don't know what to do. So one of my friends who's on the East Coast, and therefore awake at 9 in the morning, her time, was had posted something on Facebook that I commented on, and she responded. So I knew she was awake. So I sent her a text, and I said, I found this dog, this puppy, and I don't know what to do. And it's obviously hurt. And she said, well, post on the local page, which I had done, and call the vet. And I was like, thank you so much. I don't think well in these circumstances. And so I called the 24-hour vet, because like my first thought was call a vet, but my first thought is also it's Sunday at 7 in the morning and they're closed, right? But there is a 24-hour vet that I have taken my dog to. I think they're amazing. And I called them, and they said that because I don't live in the city that they're in, I can't drop the puppy off as a Good Samaritan. And so I would be responsible for it. And so I was like, well, I don't know, like, this is going to be thousands of dollars. And so I called PD, and they called, or had SPCA or animal control, whatever that company is. They called me, and they called the 24-hour vet and said, you need to take the dog. She's in your county. You need to take the dog. So I went and took the dog and dropped him off. And when these kinds of situations happen, for me, I learn my strengths, and I learn more about my weaknesses as well. And what was very clear to me was that I had all the thoughts that my friend, who's really good in a crisis, that she told me to do. I had done most of those things. I just had a stop sign with, it's 7 in the morning, on a Sunday, the vet is closed. So that is actually something that I realized this week, where I have a stop sign around I don't know. And inside humanity, inside entrepreneurship, and inside being a parent. There's so many I don't knows. And I know that I've been talking about this a lot lately, but community is important when it comes to being a parent. And we talked about this last week, Melanie and I, when we did Mom Happy Hour, that different ways to find your community. So if you missed that episode or that live, like go back and listen to it, because there's a lot of, I think, helpful hints or helpful tips on ways of finding community, because it's so important as a mom, especially if you have the same hang up that I do, which is that I don't know is a stop sign. So, and I didn't know that I don't know is a stop sign for me until like 3 days ago. It's always been a stop sign for as long as I can remember at this point. But this was the first time after my awareness that I don't know is a stop sign for me, that I was like, oh, this is one of those moments that I can't stop. It's one of those moments I have to figure it out, because this animal is his life is depending on me figuring it out. And that's so true of parenting too. Like, when we don't have our community, we are drained. We are overworked. We're overwhelmed. And it's important to our children that we figure that out. We figure out how to not be overwhelmed and drained. Because when your cup is empty, you're giving from an empty cup. And that emptiness comes out in anger and snapping and shutting them down. So much of that comes from the emptiness. So there was this story that was really impactful, and I don't remember if I've told it already. So if I have, I apologize. And maybe you'll get something else out of it if you heard it before. But when scuba divers are caught in an undertow, the undertow pulls you down and disorients you. And when you're inside that undertow, you have to just let go. If you try to orient yourself inside the undertow, you're dead. You will see things that look like the light, and you'll start swimming towards it, and you're actually going the opposite direction of air, obviously. So you don't have air, you run out of air, you die. Once you are able to orient yourself, then you can see, okay, the surface is this way, and you can swim towards the surface. The whole time you're underwater, you're holding your breath. So as you get to the surface, a lot of scuba divers or surfers, it doesn't have to be scuba diving. I guess it's probably not scuba diving, because they have masks. So probably surfers is this analogy is for, or this is a real thing, but I'm using it as an analogy. The surfer gets pulled under by the undertow, and he has to allow his body to be oriented, and then he can surf, or he can swim to the surface. Right before you get to the surface, you think, okay, here's the air. I'm going to get to the air. And you let out your breath because you're about to inhale. And what a lot of people don't know is that there's a second undertow. And that second undertow will put you back down, pull you back down, but you've let out all your air and now you're drowned. Now you've drowned. And when I heard that analogy, it reminded me of like how I feel when it's bedtime. Because all day I'm going through, I'm doing all the things that I do. And between 8 and 9, I'm winding down. And just before 9 o'clock, I usually let out my breath, my last breath. And there have been times when Xander has talked to me or asked me to do something after I've let out that last breath. And out comes the snap, out comes the anger or the irritation or whatever it is. And I told him this analogy to explain that behavior of mine. And I love this kid so much. He now asks me, if it's after 8 o'clock, he asks me, have you let out your last breath? Before he asks anything. And just have like him asking that, like it just feels, I feel heard and I feel seen and I feel understood. And so I like, and the best part is that he will do that to me too, meaning he'll say, Mom, I've let out my breath. And it's our way of communicating, like we're done emotionally. The day is over. It's bedtime. So I think that analogy for surfers and getting caught in the undertow is very relatable to parenting, because a lot of us, our lives, we're living in the undertow. There's a lot of stuff that's going on in our lives. And there's a lot of chaos. So I'll probably mention this every podcast episode and every mom happy hour between now and August 12th. We are doing a Calm the Chaos workshop, and it's free. It's 90 minutes. It's on August 12th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And you can go to my website to register, alicialyons.com/events is where you're going to find the sign up sheet. The amount of value that we're providing in this event is like, it's the things that have helped me in the past. And I know I'm going to be learning some tools too, because Melanie has been a parent educator for almost 20 years. And, she's worked with my favorite author, Dr. Dan Siegel. And so anyway, I'm very excited about it in case you guys haven't noticed. I would love to have you there. But it's Calm the Chaos from toddler tantrums to teen tudes. And I think most of us are somewhere on that spectrum. So I hope you have an amazing week. I will be back on our regular time on Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific for Mom Happy Hour. There'll be another episode of Imperfect Momming podcast coming for you all on Thursday. And until we meet again, keep healing. Bye, guys.
Thank you for tuning in to Imperfect Momming. It's time for us to step up and realize that our power is not in trying to shape our children. Our power lies in shaping ourselves into the people we want our children to model themselves after. Don't just do it for your kids. Do it for yourself. When you become a more self-aware, compassionate, and confident person, you and everyone around you benefit. For more information about me and my work, visit AliciaLyons.com. That's ALYSIALYONS.com. See you next time.